Hello, and today we're playing Cleaved. So this is the first update in over a year, and this will feature new content for Fraser. So I'm not really gonna recap everything that's happened because it's been so long since the last update, but basically, Fraser is the fox that saved Brian, I think his name is, the MC, who's a human. And he saved the MC from being caught by the guards, and they're in hiding. Well, initially he saved the human, but after some time, the human eventually got caught, and he is now, and then he got transported to this prison, and then he met Calder, who is the king. It's something I didn't expect. Usually, I would expect the king himself to personally come to you, and I think it was a little bit too. He was a little bit. Usually be kind of hostile or perhaps kind of mad that a strange creature is in his kingdom, but he was actually more optimistic than what I think he should have been. What I would expect a king to act when somebody comes to their kingdom, and I wouldn't really expect the king himself to personally see Brian in the prison. Usually they have people do that for the king, but anyway, that's basically what happened. So I don't know what this is about. If we're gonna see the fox Fraser interact with a human or not, or maybe it's some kind of backstory about Fraser. I'm not sure, but this will be my first time looking at it, so I'm gonna go ahead and start now. I'm gonna click on special. What is the side story? Yeah. Before we begin, could you remind me your name? Within the window now open once again, I take my leave from the room, saying my goodbyes with Brian, and proceeding into a dive. My body is now free falling, the familiar rush of wind on my face bringing back that ever so desirable feeling of adrenaline. Though I don't think Brian quite expected just how quick I could make my way down, judging by a brief gasp that I can hear before falling out of earshot. Satisfied with my little show, a spinning maneuver is performed. My paw slides down to grab one of my knives, pulling it out and swiftly plunging it into the wall, slowing my descent to a much more manageable speed, now allowing me to grab at the brickwork. From there, it doesn't take me long to reach the ground. Using the courtyard shrubbery to sneak past the guards and making my way to the outer wall, I vault over the rail and catch myself on the wooden shutter, using it as a makeshift ladder and finally strolling down the paved walkway. That was surprisingly easy. Normally, they have at least a few stoplight there. Crap. Leave it to me to get caught by the only guard that might be able to catch me. Behind the wolf stands two more guards, backing his left and right hand sides, respectively, cutting off my pathways of escape should I manage to find a way past the big one. Unable to go back, I looked to my sides, weighing up my options, seeing only one. Emphasis on might, Hunter. Ah. Underneath the footpath was a carved canal area, lower to the ground to help supply the botanical district with fresh water. The distance between the two was certainly high, but I had confidence in the depth of the water being enough to ensure I'd survive the fall. Besides, it would probably be a more enjoyable fate than what the wolves would do to me, considering my countless crimes. Is he insane? There's a smirk on my face as I'm confident in my escape. Until I see it. The laughing of some kids playing in the nearby grass patch draws my attention. In the back are two pups in particular, a large gray and white wolf and a sort of fox. Child. Immediately some resentment leaves my body at that moment. I simply chalk it up to an overflow of adrenaline, bringing up some past memories. Phew, fuck, that's cold. Upon reaching the surface, the memory seems to fade away as the current picks up and begins to carry me out towards the harbor. Thinking quickly, I sling the bag off my back and quickly raise it into the air, lifting my body so I can float peacefully. After everything Brian went through to get this, I'll be damned if I get it wrecked. With the water's flow continuing to quicken, it dawns on me that I've reached the canal's meeting point with the river, with colder waters washing over and sending a chill down my spine. Ow, that's cold. Alright, red, time to move. Last thing I want to do is become a glacier. With the shoreline now in sight, a quick use of the water's momentum sifts me towards the docks. Adorning the stone is some overhanging rope, a sturdy enough texture for me to hoist myself up and catch my breath, warming up with the sun beaming down. Phew, Lady Luck, don't you ever leave me. I can't help but laugh, a bit baffled as to just how well that escape plan worked, despite the apparent nature of winging it at almost every step. I roll over onto my back, the sun grazes my face as I try to dry the front as good as possible, knowing I'll have to move sooner rather than later. Nowhere in hell would Gare simply leave me to my devices, not after coming so close. Alrighty then. If I were a fox at the docks, where would my closest... Look around, I see the tunnel lining with a sewer system, a makeshift canal covered by the rapid flowing water. That top-heavy fuck isn't gonna know where to look. The sewer system is honestly one of this kingdom's most impressive setups, though its biggest drawback is its ability to conceal traces of anyone brave enough to go down there. The guards they stationed down there are honestly clueless. My mind traces back to the first time I was taken down here on a job. My old mentor made the history of it a big deal. Fraser, my boy, the Thieves Guild have used these passages for decades. Our forefathers built these to cover the whole kingdom. I mean, I get that, but why? Well, certainly not for the purposes of thievery. No, I mean, why should I care? You youngsters, I swear, because not only are they an amazing invention, they're one of the most useful tools in your arsenal. Oh yeah? How's that? Where's the wolf's most useful tool? Their weapons? Nope. Their numbers? Good guess, but not quite. It's their sense of smell. Don't get me wrong. Foxes like you are no slouch. But the wolves' tracking ability is on a whole other level. Enough that they could practically track you across the continent if you emanated something strong enough. Yeah, 'cause that's fair. But it's a double-edged sword, boyo. With the nose being as strong as it is, it's rather easy to overpower. That's why I always recommend you keep something floral on you to match your scent. Oh, so that's why Nero took me out to that flower patch the other day. Indeed. A smelling palette is one of the best things you can have on that belt of yours. But so you find yourself in a pinch, find the nearest access point for these here tunnels. Down here, it makes it practically impossible for you to be tracked. I'll keep it in mind. Good lad. Now listen, this tunnel right here will take you out near enough to that inn you frequent. Don't you worry about that. But if this job goes wrong, you just worry about getting back here, yeah? Understood. I feel bad for not thanking him properly for the tip. I hope you're doing good, you geese, wherever you wound up. A moment goes by with a parcel of sadness in the air. Who am I kidding? Knowing the old man who pulled off the heist of the century and is off living his best life. With my mood now invigorated, I step out of the opening sunlight, once again hitting my face as I hop out into the outer wing, Townstead, swiftly making my way through the back paths and entering the all too familiar district. Home. Fraser, how are you? Oh, God. I'm only able to catch the first half of what the goat was going to say before the light begins to fade from my eyes and the familiar feeling of darkness takes over. What in the hell's happened? I don't know. He stepped through the door and just fell over. Oh, God, he's wheezing. Grim, get that fire lit in the back room and I'll drag him through. We need to get him out of his clothes and warm him up. Acting rapidly, the horse apologizes and explains to the guests that they will need to leave for the time being, offering compensation for the disruption in their service and experience. To his luck, the guests leave with no issue understanding the situation at hand. The horse lets out a grateful sigh as the years of building a positive community in his bar paid off once again. With the way now clear, it doesn't take long for the two to get the fox out of his soaked attire and swiftly have him rest by the fire. Guy was off to fetch some fresh linens for him, while Gwen worked on drying out Fraser's current attire, only to be stopped in his tracks by a loud thud. What do we have? There's an audible gasp of the throat of the goat's mouth as the familiar cover brings back an old memory. He mouths out the title, continuing the wave of nostalgia and confirming it is indeed the book he tasked the human with finding. Looks like I need to give that kid some credit. I must make Fraser seem slow. Kidding, of course. Okay, the fireplace is starting to warm him up nicely. I reckon he'll need a few more hours, but he should come up white as rain soon enough. Guy took notice of the book Gwen was holding. What's it got there? If I'm being honest, a ghost from the past. Fraser actually pulled it off. What? Oh, the book. Yeah. You were kidding about the past part, huh? The two stand there in silence, happy that they were certain that his new ally was successful, although they were also concerned about the lengths they may have gone to in order to secure that item, and the injuries occurred to that boy. With the sun setting outside the window behind them, the two come to their decision that all they can really do is wait and hope that when Fraser wakes up, he'll have some answer for them. My ears twitch, the sound of a fire growing increasingly louder, quickly invading my mind. The dark cover my eyelids provide slowly begins to sift to an orange hue. As I open them, the roaring flames spew out, and the familiar scent of applewood smoke hits my nostrils. It's enough to coax me out of my exhaustion and get me to roll over onto my bed to escape the bright light. My eyes are now glued to the ceiling and I let out a long breath. Ooh boy, you certainly overdid it this time. As my eyes come away from the ceiling, I look down and notice the new attire. A simple linen shirt and some shorts. Not quite my usual outfit, and it doesn't really add anything to my dark and mysterious side like my beloved cloak does, but I suppose it'll do. With a quick stretch, my body is jolted into an upright position, and I quickly press off of my paws to get up off of the floor, making my way out of the back towards a bar area, following the sounds of murmuring coming from one of the pub's booths. Good morning, or should I say, good evening. The silence is palpable, impossible to ignore the awkward tension in the air as I meet the gaze of my fathers. We're not really in the mood for your charms, Fraser. You maybe want to start with telling us just what in the God's name happened. Nothing more than an ever so casual occupational hazard, I assure you. Bullshit. The old goat slams his stein down onto the table as his voice cuts across the silence atmosphere with a bang. Do you really think I wouldn't reach outside my contacts to see if anyone knew what in the hell's happened to you with the way you came walking in here? You know you got hypothermia. My callousness immediately bites me in the back. It seems I'm underestimated just how much strain I put my body through, especially if it put Grim in a position where he actively reached out to find out about me. Before I have a chance to respond, Grim leans over the side of the table and pulls out the book, a semblance of happiness biting my muzzle as I know at the very least I survived the journey. We want details. I already know you must have seen a human. That's the only way you could have gotten this. So tell us the truth, and don't you even dare think about lying. I snuck into the castle. Guy immediately steps back from the table in absolute shock and appears to be heading over to the bar to get some more mid. Are you insane? From everything you told us, it was the hardest thing ever to live there, and it was even harder to leave the first time around. And that was back when you had a more innocent relationship with the law. Fraser, you are a wanted criminal. What in the 9 kingdoms were you thinking? To help compose myself, I take a seat at a table, interlocking my paws and placing them in front of me. It started out with me just wanting to check on Brian, I swear. It's not always easy finding out their day-to-day schedule when they may or may not be leaving the castle grounds. My plan was to pop in real quick, see if I could get a progress report and leave before the guards were coming back for their debriefing. But when I saw them and found out about all the hard work they've been putting in, especially the fact they managed to get it so quickly, I ended up overstaying my welcome. Look, I know the kid is a nice guy, but how many times are you willing to put yourself in such a reckless position for them? I'd be lying if I said I couldn't feel my temper begin to flare up. As many times as it takes, why it's special? You need to elaborate right now, because I will not accept a blanket term like that for being the reason why you want to throw your life away. I take a deep inhale, trying my best to find the words. Dan, I've been playing the game of a noble thief for years, and I'm fully capable of realizing that my exploits over the years have helped people. But in the grand scheme of things, how much has it actually done? The kingdom could be on the verge of war. The necessary day-to-day diplomacies have been more and more neglected as time passes and the rules haven't changed. They haven't changed for a long time, but now I'm seeing that they have for once. While I don't think Brian is the sole reason, I can't deny that they're a significant player in this cause. Hell, they've been here less than 2 months, and in that time there's been improvement on the potential of vital technology that could seriously put this kingdom back on track. So yeah, I think Brian is special. And if risking my safety, even my life, is a cost of putting some good back into this place, then so be it. It's ever the rare moment when I find myself becoming misty-eyed. Then again, it's even more rare that I find myself having the opportunity to be vulnerable. However, with my thoughts out, I look away from my digits and to the parent in front of me. He too is having a tear in his eye. He stands out, prompting an ever so slight flinch, but is quickly ignored as he wraps his arms around me, crying to my shoulder and pulling me into a warm embrace. I quickly reciprocate the feeling just to feel another source of heat hit me in the back, watching Guy's arms pull me into a family hug. And here I was thinking he just had back. And here I was thinking he just had a new crush. Papa, seriously? I always rely on you to kill the mood. As annoying as his tone-deaf nature was, it was always appreciated for making me smile, even in the hardest of times. But although the two of us began to calm down, I could still feel Grim's emotional state. But it wasn't one of sadness. It's like I'm hearing Lady Silver. Well, she was my favorite teacher after all. Come on, Dad. Dry the tears. My boy, your father and I understand that you're a grown adult. At this point. You can do whatever you want, and we are so proud of the man you have become. Though I would be lying if I told you we approved of the path you were going down, because we don't want to see you hurt. But if there is absolutely no way we can discourage you from this, we want to let you know we will be in your corner for as long as we can. Thank you, honey. Sometimes you have such a way with words. I'm afraid there is no turning back on this path. People forge their own destinies, and this is mine. The silence returns, but this time is more of a comforting one, a somber, silent one. We slowly release our grasp on each other and return to positions of normalcy. So, I see you saw the book. Did you manage to get far through it? All but the end of it. We stopped to marvel at the human's speedy work, and that's when you began to steer. I'm assuming you've finished it all. Indeed, and I've got a lot of questions. I can certainly try to answer them. Let's have a look. It only takes the old man a few minutes to go through the final page of the journal, his eyebrows contorting as the old tales tied to his writing floods his mind. God's been an age, Elendris. What a marvel. Before he's given a chance to reminisce, he catches my gaze, realizing that I still have questions. What's in your mind? I know you used to work at the castle, but you've never really given me the full extent. Was it more than just cartography? I'm assuming you've seen some of the exploits documented in that journal. The truth is, boy, I have always been a traveler. Since the second I became independent, I had gone to many continents to study the local life that existed in all places. That combined with other skills in my repertoire was what impressed the king. 8 days ago, I returned from the southern isles of the Caledonia woods, and while I was there, I encountered a variety of new settlements that were slowly but steadily forming. It was around the same time I had settled into the kingdom. In passing conversation, I had mentioned where I was hailing from, and said that I would love to bring back some of the resources that could only be found in these kingdoms to set up some new tradesmen at the dockyard. Wait, are you talking about the village where the authors hail from? The very same. Their ability, their unique ability to adapt in both water and land had allowed them to set up quite the impressive townstead, and their skills in swimming made it easy for them to find their way to the kingdom and create boat lines for their trade ships. So anyway, that was my last stop for that leg of the journey, and I returned to the dock to sell my maps and goods, throwing in the occasional story of my travels for free. But over the coming weeks, more and more of the settlers I had contacted began to take up stalls and shops alongside me, turning our once quaint trading post into a bustling and vibrant market. With enough word getting out of who brought them here, well, the king couldn't help but secure a meeting with me. He thought he was only going to meet a simple map maker, but once he learned of my exploits, I was informed that he wanted me to join the council staff, charting journeys, documenting discoveries, even providing updates to the council members at meetings. There was nothing small about that job, and the company that came with it were certainly interesting, to say the least. He takes a moment to look over at his husband coming back from the bar with a round of drinks. For the three of us, the horse actually having a slight blush on his face, a rare sight for their dynamic. But yes, to answer your question, it was much more than simple cartography. Wow, so by the sounds of it, the city owes quite a lot of its development to you, don't they? Bah, I'm not one to brag, boy, but I'm grateful that I was able to bridge a gap in which these opportunities could happen. I'm curious though, why did King Fimbo want you to go meet with the tigers? Like, I understand you just explained that your job was more than just simple cartography, but a job like that seems like something they would want to have their own paws on. I understand that you explained that your job was more than just simple cartography, but a job like that seems like something they would want to have their own paws on. See, I thought that too, but Fimbo was a very tactical man, and he had sound reasoning for why he asked me to go instead of a General Wolven ambassador. The plan was simple. Fimbo explained to me that his reasoning was that by sending an ambassador of a different species, it would give the impression that there are more allies under the Wolven banner than the Tigers might think. Sort of greasing the wheels for an easier transition, if you will. My experiences also convinced him that it might be best to send someone who has an easier time accepting the new customs and cultures as well. After all, you know who's on the council. His eyes roll off to the side a slight bit. Even after his departure from the castle, only two members of the council had changed, one of them being far harsher than their respective predecessor, and the other not as bold as to determine a strong opinion just yet. I see. How did it come to an end then? You've been awfully upbeat about it so far. Well, the journals in honestly made it seem a lot more devious than what you always told me. It was a combination of things. After I was unsuccessful in securing the allyship with the Tigers, I was sent to come home. After we left the forest and got back to Olsen, we set out, unaware of the impending disastrous weather that was coming our way. My team all made it back alive, but I suffered a serious injury that limited my movement and damaged some of my memory. I knew that my days of being an adventurous, sporting goat were far behind me after that. Is that why you wanted us to find the book? Indeed, my recollection of the topics in those books isn't what it used to be. Same for their locations besides the ones I was explicitly told as to where they were, like the one I was able to hide or the occasional one that happened to be my collection. But yes, the combination of failure and me not being a cripple left a foul taste in the less compassionate members of the council's mouths. A majority vote called for my ousting from the royal staff, which the king, in his own words, regrettably granted. As upset as I was, I'm rational enough to understand I'd only injure myself further if I tried to ignore what had happened to me. Though Lady Silver pulled me aside and informed me the council no longer wanted to keep my literature on site. They no longer wanted materials from an outside source to conflict with their future endeavors, or at least the ones that might betray the version of life they want to tell, at least. But it's because of her that I was able to extract some of my books and send them far away to places where I knew they would be safeguarded, all except for this one. The one I left behind, hidden to ensure my name would be remembered in that library. Should someone wish to learn of the secrets I had uncovered, they would have the ability to do so. You already know the rest, my dear boy. Your father and I used our combined savings as well as a generous servant's gift to move out here, build a new life, and slowly recover from our time served. Bastards. It's not all bad. Think about it. If the events didn't play out the way we did, we never would have had you in our lives. There's a smile on the old man's face, and I can't help but join him as the reassurance of their happiness for our meeting is certainly heartwarming. My smile then fades from a joyous one to a more of a somber one. I'm happy to have learned more about the lives that my fathers have lived. It only reiterates that the only way to find success in this mission will be to find a book. What are you scheming? And the truth, mister, I'm trying to think of how I can get to Alendris. I've never actually heard of the police before, but it appears that's where I need to head next. I'm trying to think of how I can get to Alendris. I've never actually heard of the police before, but it appears that's where I'll need to head next. Before I can even stand, God immediately grabs onto my shoulders and presses down, making sure I'm secured to the chair. Don't you even think about it. You haven't fully recovered yet, so you can start plotting after you've had a minimum of a night's rest and 2 square meals. Got it? Understood. It's late. Go get some rest, Fraser. We'll continue this discussion in the morning. I'll be making breakfast. Knowing that there is no arguing with them at this point, I decide to retire for the night, quickly wishing them both a pleasant sleep. I then make my way out of the room and return to one of the available rooms at the inn. I'm worried about him. I know, hun. I am too. But we can't exactly stop him, which is why we need to be there for him. You're right. I honestly blame myself for giving him my sense of adventure. You would. The smell of fried goods wafts into the room, signaling me to the sounds emanating from the kitchen. It takes me a mere moment to rise out of bed, springing from the covers and landing with precision. Gosh, I can't remember the last time I had a homemade breakfast. Before approaching the doorway to my room, I spare a moment to quickly stretch. I feel my shirt go slack from the waist arms, a portion of my midriff sewing prompting me to use my free paw to give it a quick scratch. Damn, did Dad shrink this, or have I grown since the last time I wore this? My internal dialogue is broken by the sound of my growling stomach, and I decide to save the thought for later after some much needed recuperation. Though it would be easier said than done, as a place that is normally filled with a sea of sound is unfortunately eerily quiet. Finally stepping into the room, I see Guy standing in the corner next to the fire, rapidly shaking the pan to ensure its contents are thoroughly cooked. The old man looks decent, all things considered, unlike the heavy contrast of his partner. Grim is sitting at the table, arms crossed, eyes bloodshot, and a restless leg that occasionally knocks the table in front of him, disturbing a large mug to his right. Uh, Morning. Something here smells great. Why, thank you. I had some meat and eggs delivered from the local market, so I figured. Fuck. Whoa. Of the two of them, Grim has always been the more patient of the two, so to hear him swear so casually was certainly a shock to the system. Yeah, what's wrong? Yeah, a reminder of how old and outdated I am. Your father there didn't sleep the entire night. He stayed up digging through every letter and every recording he has of that stupid library, only to realize the people he used to know have long since moved on. Why did you? We talked it over after you went to bed last night and realized if there's nothing we can do to stop you, we're damn gonna make sure to do the best that we can to help you. As he says this, he passes me a plate. I make my way over to the goat, taking a seat next to him and looking at the full display and the various maps and works. Alondras was the last city I was able to completely visit before my injury regulated me to sort of trips. It was a sort of honeymoon for us. You know, I have no context for where I have no context for what this place is. Did you think you could? You know, I have no context for what this place is. Think you could fill me in? Well, you do kids know anything? Well, respectfully, when have I ever left Caledonia? Boys and side voices. We both sigh as the gorse finally. Horse or gorse? The horse. We both sigh as the horse finally makes his way over to join us, his breakfast in tow. Sorry, a very long time ago, Atlantis was known as a kingdom of Armorland. So sorry, a very long time ago, Atlantis was known as the kingdom of Armorland. It was arguably the most powerful. It was the main powerhouse of the entire continent. It's right in the center of where the four great kingdoms now sit. The old king of Sands was known as Pharaoh. Before him, well, Armo had secured a peace treaty with everyone from far and wide due to the efforts of Alan the Keeper. Alan was gifted for a plot of land in the middle of the city, far bigger than what any other resident could have owned, save for the royalty, of course. On this land, Alan created a grand library, a place that could accept donations of any literature from around the world so that scholars of all over could have a central point where they could learn anything their hearts would desire, provided they had something to bring with them. They would only add to the nigh unlimited potential of the library. However, it was when Pharaoh came to rule that problem surmounted. Pharaoh had cemented himself as a vile king, a man who thought he controlled more power than he did. The man king believed that because everybody respected the kingdom of Ormo, he should be able to exercise the authority that came with the respect. But it was never for him. He demanded tithes and other collections of finery for simply being the figurehead of the once mighty nation. But it was never for him. He abandoned lives. But it was never for him. He demanded tithes and other collections of finery for simply being the figurehead of the once mighty nation. This did not bode well for him. In an attempt to expand the land of Armo and exercise his demands, he began to steal land from the neighboring kingdoms, which eventually led towards breaking out across the continent. In one fell swoop, a coalition of kingdoms was formed with a sole agreement to destroy Armo and do away with the bloodline that seek the atrocities of the neighboring kingdoms. Gods, what happened after? The war was put into motion, knowing what they were up against. The majority of Pharaoh's army abandoned the cause, and he would later have his head be placed on a pike for all to witness. Despite the impending destruction that came from this declaration of war, Allen had stepped in. He opened the doors to the library, taking in any civilians that had found themselves in the crossfire. When the fires came for the city, he stood alone against the armies and begged for them to spare the library and those that sealed it. The respective generals would be knowledgeable of the history the library had offered, and as such, they agreed to spare it from any of the atrocities that may have come upon them. For his efforts, Allen was immortalized in the city's history. He would go on to become an elected official in charge of governing over the city, as the surviving citizens went on to rebuild the kingdom from the library outward. When he eventually died, the city changed its name as a token of memorialization, and that is how we are blessed with the city of Elendris. I simply can't explain the sophisticated culture that comes with the land after its rulership had changed, as it's simply something you need to experience to understand fully. I simply can't explain the sophisticated culture that comes with the land after its rulership had changed, as it's simply something you need to experience to fully understand. But do know that it was a strong reason as to why I chose to store my memoir there. I do appreciate the history lesson there, Dad, and I'm glad to know that the book should be safe there. But it doesn't get me any closer. I don't suppose you have any. I swear you get your impatience from me. Before I can even finish my sentence, he's already dug out a folded piece of paper. While I haven't had any luck finding someone that I can contact for you at Elendris, I was able to contact some of the local services in the area. Tomorrow at midday, there will be a caravan leaving from the northern side of the outer ring. The caravan's leader is a frequent patron, one that owes me a favor. He's offered you a guaranteed spot on the journey. It's not going to the city, but the pathway it is on will get you to the edge of the Caledonia forest. He already knows the drop-off spot. Once you're there, all you'll need to do is follow the map out of the forest and head north. Then you'll be at the kingdom in no time. I can't help but thank the old man enough for the relentless work he's put in, and as such, I'll pull him into a hug, guys slowly joining in after collecting the plates. You come back alive. Yes. No promises. We made it, young man. Okay, I'm sorry. I smell forms on my muzzle. I couldn't ask for better dads. Frost, I don't want to pick you out. I don't want to kick you out, but by the sounds of it, you've got some prepping to do. We're about to open up shop for the day, too. That says I'd like to suggest you get an early start and head over to the north gate. That caravan driver is going to need a deposit. I'll get right on it. Thanks again. Love you, kiddo. Love you too. Guy silently nods from the kitchen as I excuse myself and return to my room. A singular moment is spared for me to don my proper attire, securing my bow, my pouch, and all my other tools of the trade before finally slipping out of the window to begin my walk. So, you want to come out and tell me how long you've been waiting here? Good morning to you too, Foxy. As I look to my left, leaning up against a wall, is a familiar sight of a tall white furball. Oh, a thousand pardons, Sir Nero. Where are my manners? Good morning to you. Okay, the pause talk really doesn't suit you. We say a brief laugh, but it stops just as soon as it starts with the rat being able to tell that my mind's elsewhere. I'm not gonna lie and tell you I've heard everything, but the second I found out you nearly froze to death, I thought it was only appropriate I at least come do some form of checkup on you. But then I hear the old goat yelling about Elendris. Yep, on my way to secure some transport to help with the first leg of the journey. Why in the hells are you going there of all places? Sort of secrecy? I'm not telling you unless you swear to me. This isn't some information for the Thieves Guild to use as they please. Okay, I swear. I'm headed up there to go find one of my old man's books. The human found a book in the library, in the Royal Library, that has some of Grimm's findings from his younger years. The only problem is that it doesn't have the full extent of it. The second half is currently residing in Elendris's grand library, and I need to go retrieve it. You know, there's easier ways of getting your paws on some exotic tail end, right? Excuse me? I've seen you do less for some of your previous romantically inclined partners. And this guy, who has come out of nowhere, has you in such a chokehold that you're willing to break into one of the most sacred sources of knowledge on the continent to impress him. I just want to make sure you're thinking with what's between your ears as opposed to what's between your legs. Oh, fuck you, Nero. That has nothing to do with it. Then enlighten me. For the sake of the gods, I'll explain it to you the same way I explained it to my folks last night. Barn, despite only being here for a short time, has implemented himself into a position of prominence within the Wolven Council. When he speaks, they listen, some more than others. Sure, but when was the last time you generally saw some of those stuck-up bastards take into consideration the blunt opinions of those who are lesser than? Hell, the Thieves Guild has its fingers in every pie possible. So I'm sure you already know about the talks of the inner city university opening its doors to foreign students to attend for the first time ever. I can't prove that he did that, but I know for damn certain he had something to do with it. I've always trusted my gut, and right now it's telling me that I need to help him. I know the reward for doing so will be a feat greater than anything I could accomplish by being a petty folk hero. So, are you gonna scoff and call me crazy, or are you tagging along? Cause while I have no doubt in my mind that I could complete this single-handedly, I'd be lying if I said you wouldn't make it a hell of a lot easier. You're crazy, but you're lucky that you're my best friend. Softy. What can I say? You're convincing when you get all passionate like that. So, when's the job? As I said, I'm going to secure the transport now. If all goes to plan, we should be leaving around midday tomorrow. I reckon we'll be back home within a week. It's just incredibly lucky that I finished my jobs, just when I think I finally get some time off. Please, I'll buy you some fancy drink when we get there and we'll be right as rain. I'll be holding you to that. Let's go. As we wrap up the conversation, the journey to the North District begins at an even pace, the feeling of company making it far less lonely than what would have been. I do wish you consider coming back, by the way. You know, coming back to the Thieves Guild. Never. The second the old mentors retired and the new ones started taking on our jobs, heard the regular people we noble thieves initially set out to help. I could never. With respect, the way the slots open, you could easily have become one of the leaders. And if you had, I don't think they would have turned out the way they currently are. Come on, man. Don't try and blame that on me. But I do think you make a good leader. Maybe in another lifetime. Well, regardless of how you feel about them, we may as well use them to our advantage. What do you mean? You wouldn't know about this, but the reason why the Thieves Guild hasn't been active as it has been in previous years is because we've slowly been expanding. Over the past months, we've established safe houses and networks in multiple cities and kingdoms across the continent, including Elendris. You're kidding. Swell my one good eye. Let me stop off at the safe house once we get closer to the caravan site, and I'll send the message overhead. They should get there before us so we can have some sort of base of operations ready for when we get there. Perfect. Say, what's the Thieves Guild using for their messengers nowadays? You still get the occasional one to do the dirty work, but for longer whole messages, we've had a lot of success training birds to deliver them. Fair play. Yeah, we thought about asking armor-enhanced avian brethren to do it, but it's a bit suspicious if they get caught flying in. But the little guys, absolute stars. He seems rather proud of the guild's investment in this idea, and I do need to give him props for the ingenuity of the idea. But I feel like it's something I have to see to fully believe. Be honest with me, though. Does that hairless ass do anything for you? Seriously? I'm curious. You always seem to charm every species under the sun, but this is the first time I've seen you be the pursuer. It's too early to tell if we do anything more than friends, but I appreciate the kinship we have, even if it hasn't been for very long. And give us a private room, a couple of meds, and if he was interested, I certainly wouldn't say no. Way. Honest to gods, you're the only person I know who can ruin the seriousness of a conversation so fast. Ain't I a conundrum? Pain no artist, more like. The rat can only laugh as I let out a sigh of disapproval. Thankfully, my pain is spared slightly with a view of the caravan lot coming in sight. As we arrive, Nero splits off to fulfill his part of the plan while I step over to the circle. From the corner of my eye, I spotted a woman. In her paws, I can see she's holding a clipboard doing individual inspections of each cart. Excuse me, miss. Yes, can I help you? I wonder if you can help me. I'm looking for the caravan leader. I was informed the caravan will be leaving here tomorrow afternoon, heading out east. Ah, yes, we still have spaces available for that journey. My boss is over there in the stable area. If you'd like to have a word with him, we'll discuss the prices with you and give you a full rundown on the plane into Nero. Thank you. Follow her, Following her instructions, I head over to the wooden stable area. Stepping inside, my eyes locked with an older rabbit. Under the impression that he's a driver, I make my way over. A dashing fox with a bow in the hood. You're exactly as your old man described you. Good to see you, son. Glad to see my reputation precedes me. Please, I know you from your exploits across the city. Good on you for it, boy. Oh, well, thank you. Don't mention it. Your exploits have helped a lot of my staff in these trying times. So Grim calling in this favor was the least I could do to repay you on their behalf. That said, I can't offer you a ride for free. At the end of the day, I still have employees to pay. I wouldn't expect it, though. I'm wondering if it would be possible for me to add an additional seat to my booking. Let's have a look. The rabbit pulls a small leather journal out from one of the nearby stalls and rests it on a table in front of me. He looks it over and explains to me that he initially had me placed on the last seat available on the fourth cart, and the only way he would be able to fit an additional person on this journey and have them near me would be for us to ride on his personal car. I'll take it. As the agreement is settled, the gold pouch is removed from my belt, and I pay the man the fare, ending the transaction with a firm handshake. Thanks again, old timer. Say I didn't catch your name. Watch the boy. I'm not so old that I can't get out from this desk and tan your hide. The name's Hugo. Well, I appreciate the patronage, Hugo. I'll see you at midday sharp. You best. Won't be waiting for you. The rabbit lets out a hearty laugh as our business has concluded, and I step outside to go reconvene with the rat. As I return to the initial spot where we separated, it doesn't take him long to shortly return, where he informs me that they will have the message sent out before the day is over. If that all goes to plan, we will have a loft bedroom above one of the taverns on the main streets of Elendris. Nero continues to gush about how it's at a prime location and how it'll make such an easy opportunity for us to scout out the perimeter and devise a plan to pull off our heist. While I may be skeptical of his embellishments, I remain ever positive that should things go to plan, then we'll have a somewhat successful mission. To round off our day, we begin to head back to my parents' inn, knowing that we'll have to be up at the crack of dawn in order to look over our equipment and get there with enough time to spare. The sound of a quail echoes across the small room as the fox rapidly jots down a goodbye for his parents. Thanks again for all your help. I'll try and be back before the week's over. P.S. I'll be sure to bring back a souvenir with a tavern. Love, Fraser. Now that that's done, checklist. Bow, dagger, gold, cloak. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Satisfied, I make my way over to the door, grabbing my satchel and slinging it over my shoulder. The pack contained a few necessities to ensure survival for when we departed from the caravan. With the sunlight just peeking through the windows of the tavern, the shadow of familiar forms nearby, signaling it was time to depart. All set? All good over here. How about yourself? Currently wishing I had a little more funding for the trip, but doing pretty good overall. What could you have possibly spent it on? Well, as much as I wish I could tell you that I had a fun night with some woman from the inner city, the reality of it is that I had to hand over a small fortune for that messenger I hired. Seriously, it's not free? Normally, yes, but if a bird was scheduled to go on one, and there, but every bird was scheduled to go on one, and they had none free, though the handlers are not sorry to take the occasional bribe. Well, I appreciate it. It's no bother. It just means you'll be covering the majority of the bills will occur. Smart ass. Decided it would be best if we went and got a move on. The rat grabs his own satchel and quickly secures it on his back as we make our way out of the paved street and once again begin our walk to the caravan. Say, Nero, if you had to guess, how long have we been friends? Well, we're in our 20s and the guild started training you when you were about 10ish. Hesitating, I guess. I'd probably guess 11 or 12 years. Why do you ask? Yeah, just thinking about the idea of us going on a jab together again. Just thinking about the idea of us going on a job together again. Feels strange after so long. Yeah, I get what you mean. It does raise another question, though. Before he gets a chance to say what's on his mind, the sound of loud shouting cuts against the somber quiet provided by the surrounding woodlands. Coming into view was the sight of a woven noble, closely attended by two guards as he continues to complain about some of the eyesores that were the local buildings of the outer city, stating that they're blocking the view of the stunning nature around them. Fraser, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Bait and tape. Oh yeah, fat ass over there has quite possible the biggest coin pouch I have seen in months. Might be a big help when we get to Alandris. Haven't got to tell me twice. You be the bait. I'll stash the bags. The rat nods and we take our positions. Nero quickly flings his hood up over his head, pulling the drapes over his shoulders to make his outfit look more aged and tattered. The next move is to take a seat next to a tree that's lined up with the wolf's path. As for me, I grab his bag and make a beeline for the woodlands behind. I run far enough ahead so that I can hide the bags by a nearby stump and slowly double back to position myself on a prime spot to launch out and steal the pouch. Go time, Nero. Excuse me, sir. The guards are immediately on edge, taking a step forward and raising their spears at the rat. The noble is in a perfect position, standing just slightly aback. Oh, peasant. What do you want? I hate to trouble you, sir, but by chance would you have some spare change for half-blind beggar? Huh. I hate to trouble you, sir, but by chance would you have some spare change for a half-blind beggar? Ha! No, I do not. My grubbers like you should not expect someone who's worked for the fortune. Hate to trouble you, sir, but by chance would you have some spare change for half-blind beggar? Huh. No, I do not. Money grabbers like you should not expect someone who's worked with a fortune to bail them out. You may be blind, but from what I can see, you still have 2 arms, 2 paws, and 2 legs. Get a job. During the lecture, the wolf raises his arms, completely removing all protection from the pouch. Seeing this as my moment, I quickly make my way in, steady paws going to work as one of them pulls the knot that secured it to the belt, the other on standby to catch the pouch as it fails. With it now secured, I spring off my back foot, diving back into the shrubbery and heading back in the direction of where the bags were stored. I apologize for troubling you, sir. Blasted pity merchants. The wolf turns away slowly, trotting off with the god's clothes on his tail. And as soon as the coast was clear, Nero got his way up and made his way further up the road to meet me leaving the woods. We both remained silent for just a moment before a wave of laughter washed us over. What a dick. I know, but think of it this way. A fat asshole like that is bound to stop off somewhere before he heads home. I'm just imagining the sincere panic on his face as he polishes off the most expensive thing on the menu and then can't seemingly pay off after. That would be amazing. Feels pretty good destroying Noble's reputation, especially when the reward is so delectable. Indeed, speaking of which, what's our take? Let's see. Both our eyes go wide. The stack of gold in the sack went high with gold coins practically to the point of bursting out. This much gold would be enough to buy a humble man at least 3 months worth of rent. Holy, do they just have no sense? This is easily one of the biggest scores I've had in my life, and he's just carrying it around like it's nothing. Wow, okay. We're not keeping all of it. What? We'll take enough to help with endeavors and Elendras, but whatever we don't need is being given to someone who really needs it. Yeah, but there's no convincing you otherwise, is there? Not a chance. It was a true noble. He rolls his eyes, but he accepts my terms. With our delay now over, we make our way to the caravan. I was beginning to think you missed our departure. What? No way. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Note to self, get better at time management. My cart's up at the front. Feel free to drop your bags off and get yourselves all comfortable. We'll be leaving shortly. Perfect. As the rabbit walks away, Nero can't help but pant, out of breath from sprinting. We took too long with that guy. I have nothing to say. I simply grab him by the cloak and drag him in the direction of the cart. We throw our traveling bags at the back of the car, turning them into makeshift pillows, before finally climbing in and resting up against it. Before long, we hear rustling coming from the front of the cart. It appears to be the conductor taking his position to drive the cart. Now, boys, I'm aware that my cart is probably the most intimate of all the ones in this caravan, given the covers, and I don't judge, but... Oh, sir, we're not... Oh, apologies, I just assumed, two men traveling together and leaving the city together. I take the opportunity to crack a joke. We'll keep it quiet, but if you want to join in, I'll shut up now. Fraser, what the... I can't help but laugh, these two being too awkward for their own good. Hugo, we're looking to get as close as possible to Elendras. My dad said you're not going there, but that you're making a pit stop at an area somewhat close that way. The joke was nice, but I could sense a change in mood would definitely help the conversation. Indeed, I'll be sure to give you a holler when we get there. Perfect. Any idea how long that'll be? Leaving now, we'll probably get there by tomorrow morning. Perfect. I'm taking a nap. You got first watch. Nero's still reeling from my banter, and with him being so worked up, I know it's not possible for him to get some shut-eye right now. Fine. En far. It's en far away. I roll my eyes, finally setting them as I drift off into a comfortable slumber. It's for the best. He's just a child. I can't help but shuffle around due to loud noises till another one crosses the threshold waking me. A child that I regret. How could you? How could I what? Feel bad about filthy halving? If this gets out, It'll ruin me, and not just that, it'll bring hell down upon him and you. Consider a kindness. And what will you have me do? And what would you have me do? Just uproot my life and leave? Yes, you daft bitch. You got a nice little departure package, and without you around, I won't have to worry about anyone catching on to our union. But I can't just. You can, and you will. He'll have a better life than what you can provide in those slums, and I can live peacefully knowing no one will find out. Now go. I want to say goodbye. The boys are asleep and the rest of the council are out for the festival. There's no better time for you to leave than now. Mom, the commotion was enough to get me out of bed and walk into the door of my bedroom. You bastard! Before my eyes, my mother was desperately trying to fight past my father's grasp and make her way over to me. Fraser, I have to go away for a little while. What do you mean? I need to leave, honey. I have something important to settle back home, so I need to go away for a little while. Okay, then I'll come with you. The older fox could only speak through teary eyes. I'm so sorry, honey, but you can't. Why? I'm so sorry, honey, but you can't. I'm going somewhere that just isn't ready for you yet. But she moves her paws up to grab her necklace, slowly taking it off and wrapping it around my neck. Keep on to this, my love. A part of me will always be with you when you have it. My own eyes begin to water as he slowly nods, My own eyes begin to water as he slowly backs up. Oh, for the love of Askel, get in here and help me. One of the wolves barges into the room, putting his paws on my mother, dragging her away, while my father's dirty paws grab onto me and prevent me from getting to her. I love you. Mom. My panicked breathing begins to quell as the flame of the carriage comes to the view, reminding me that it must have been a dream. Fuck. You okay back there, son? Yeah, just doing fine. I'm secretly the saddle ruler of Caledonia. You got a problem? Other than the fact you probably woke up the whole caravan with that nightmare? No problems at all. We're almost a whole caravan. There's a slight chuckle shared between us before the sound of crickets fills the night once more. You don't have to speak about it if you don't want to, son, but take it from an old man who's no stranger to familial problems. Might do you some good to see her. Tell me where to start or throw me a photo of her and I'll go tomorrow to find her. And let out a sigh. We got separated when I was young. That it just all feels like a blur. All I remember is that she has a necklace matching mine. If I find that, then I'll have a lead. I see. No dad in the portrait. Any chance he could set you right? Bash is dead, thank the gods. Ooh boy, touchy subject there. I'm assuming you're not going to Elendris to fight her. What makes you think that? Believe me, any guide and their companion would know if a fox was in a town like that, center of attention, eyes wouldn't be taken off of one other for. Believe me, any guide and their companion would know if a fox was in a town like that, center of attention, eyes wouldn't be taken off of one either from curiosity or desire. Oi now, but good to know. City is a lot more welcoming to same-sex interaction than what you might be used to, boy. Would recommend keeping that in mind. I'll take any info if it helps cause a little trouble. Give him hell, kid. The rabbit seems to lean forward a slight bit, exiting the conversation and leaving. The rabbit seemed to lean forward a slight bit, exiting the conversation and leaving me to my thoughts. At least I know I can cross Elandris off the. At least I know I can cross Elandris off the list one day, Mom. Listen, we're gonna be taking a short break so I can check over the carts, but we'll be at your drop-off in a few hours. He returns for a brief moment, and it strikes me as a bit of a relief to know we're nearly there. The thought of going back to sleep does carry my the thought of going back to sleep does cross my mind, but ultimately it's something I choose not to entertain. The thought of being able to get out of the woodlands for the first time, and who only knows how long, was too exciting for me to pass up. You're not getting off the hook for sleep on the job, Nero. I'll be getting you back at some point, deciding that I need to do something to kill time before going stir crazy, and dig out my pack and begin to take inventory of my items, deciding if there's anything I need to replenish, ready for when we finally arrive. Okay, I'll stop right here. Alright, so once I'm done with all the edits, this should be a pretty long video. So hopefully, whatever's left of this update, it won't be too short. Because, let's say it takes 2 hours to do, and like, I was able to do over an hour and a half of it, and then there's only like 30 minutes left of it, then I might not really like that, because I want to keep the length of the videos kind of consistent, like a little over an hour for each one. So it would have been nice, well, it would have been helpful if they kind of gave out a word count, how many words are in the update, because that does give me an idea of how long the update will be. But they say it would be the longest update so far in the VN, but I have no idea how long it really is. Alright, so he had a nightmare about his parents, and apparently his father didn't want to take care of him, and his mother had to go somewhere to find somebody, and she was very sweet, but the father just didn't want Fraser. So hence why he called his father a bastard. So we got this to at least hear from his real parents. So we got to meet a friend of his, a new character, who's a rat. He's aware of the human and him being part of the council. And he's kind of, a little playful with Fraser. He's wondering if he's been going out with a human, and Fraser said there's just a friendship, and though he didn't completely leave out the possibility of things being more between him and a human. So to be honest, I think he might decide to look for his mother while he's here. It seemed kind of obvious to me that that's what he's gonna do, besides all the work he has to do with the heist and all that, and trying to find the book. the other half of his father's book. So we got to see them in action, stealing some stuff from this rich wolf noble. Typical noble that, always thinking they're hardworking and calling the poor weak. Yeah. So far it's been about Fraser. It's a side story. And we got to see a little bit of Gear, the big bodyguard, try to chase after Fraser, but Fraser managed to escape the castle with the first half of the book, anyway. Alright, so we'll continue with the rest of the updates, so thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.